Okay, so lesson 3 on Google Sheets, very similar to some of the Excel lessons, kind of same thing. What we're going to do now is we're going to build off of our multiple choice grader. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to take this sheet and we're going to duplicate it. So you click the down arrow down at the bottom of the tab, choose that, go to duplicate. Now, if you weren't paying much attention, you might not think anything at all happened because this sheet and this sheet, these two at the bottom here, these two tabs, are absolutely identical. I made a copy, right? But we're going to take this second one, this copy here, and we're going to rename it. And this time I'm going to call it MC for multiple choice and FR grader. What that means is that we're going to alter it to allow me to have both a multiple choice portion and a free response portion. This is something, again, this is lived experience. At some point, I both realized and was convinced and forced into adding free response to my multiple choice test in biology. And that meant that I would have one number, like this, that I would get from the multiple choice grade of how many they got right out of how many questions I had. But then I would have a free response number as well that I would have to score. So up here, I'm actually going to put in FR and put a little arrow pointing, that way, like that. I'm going to put MC here and put the lowercase v there to indicate going down that way. And I'm actually going to just delete this entire column. Delete. So you can do that. You can put in here. So let's say in this example I had a 40 points of the test were multiple choice, so I could change that to a 40. Now my free response was worth another 10 points of the thing. Now, as it turns out with free response, I usually grade that. I use half points. You can't really get a half point on a multiple choice question, but a free response certainly, there's room for judgment. No, they almost got that right. So this time what we're going to do is we're going to have the maximum score. Let's go ahead and make that red so the user knows that that's a parameter. And let's make the cell next to it equal to that cell minus 0.5, the half point possibility. So the most you can make on free response was 10, but you can make 9.5. And now I'm going to drag this, instead of down, I'm going to drag it sideways like this. And as you can see, that works as well. When you drag sideways, it changes the letter portion of cell references, but not the numerical portion. So all my free response scores, possible scores, are going to stay on row 2, but be in columns C, D, E, F, G, etc. Likewise, all of my multiple choice scores are going to be in column B and change from B3, B4, B5, etc. coming downward. So this produces like basically a grid, a matrix of values here. And so, for instance, if you wanted to calculate what value would go in here, it would be the score for a person who got 38 of the 40 multiple choice points right and 9.5 of the 10 free response points back, out of a total of 40 plus 50. So the way this would be calculated here, logically, is you would have a numerator that had this cell and this cell added together, divided by whatever value is in this cell added to whatever value was in this cell. But here's the place where really understanding absolute and relative references is going to make a difference. So let's focus on the denominator first, right? We know that the maximum score will always be found by B3 plus C2. Even if I change the numbers in these two places, these two parameters, the denominator will always, always, always both be in B and 3. So both parts of this need to remain the same. As I copy this down, I want the 3 to remain the same. And as I copy it sideways, I want the B to remain the same. So I need dollar signs in both places. I need a dollar sign there so that the B doesn't change as I copy this. I need a dollar sign there so the 3 doesn't change. So always refers to that little light blue box or teal or whatever color. That cell is not going to change as I drag this down or over. For every cell on here, I want my denominator to have whatever number's there in that denominator added to this one. Now, I want to put dollar signs in here, and I'm going to show you a little thing that'll speed up your work. I am not going to type in a dollar sign before the C, nor am I going to type in a dollar sign before the 2. Instead, on my keyboard, down at the bottom left-hand corner, there's a button that says FN. It's the function button. And so while I'm somewhere here, here, or here, somewhere, and usually I like to go to the very center so I know I'm right. So while I have C2 selected here, I'm going to hold down that function button, and then I'm going to hit on the top row of my keyboard. There is a button that has the letter F4 and little text on the key F4 up top. So I'm going to do function F4. And notice what it did. Just by hitting that F4 now, and I have to have function held down. By the way, some of you have tried to do this, and you just hit F4 without holding the function key down, and your computer shut off. This is one of the things I really wish either Excel or Sheets or Windows somebody would address. It puts your computer to sleep often when you hit F4. My computer actually, if I hit F4 without holding the function button down, just raises my sound, I believe. I'm not even going to attempt to do it right now. But nonetheless, make sure you're holding the function button down when you hit F4. And it'll put those dollar signs in. It'll put both dollar signs in. Now, I do want you to pay attention to this because it becomes important in just a minute. I'm going to repeat that action. I'm going to hold down function and hit F4 a second time. Notice this time, it got rid of the leading dollar sign but kept the one that would keep the row reference, the 2 in there. If I do it a third time, it cycles to the third option of the ways you could put dollar signs. If I do it a fourth time, it goes back to the... So this actually toggles as I tap it through the 4 ways you could have dollar signs. No dollar signs, 2 dollar signs, a dollar sign only on the row reference, a dollar sign only on the column reference, and no dollar signs at all. So I want it with both in this case because I do want it to always look in column C and row 2 for any point on this grid for the denominator portion of this. So this is going to be 40 plus 10. That's my denominator. Now if I hit enter, I get 95%, which is actually correct. 38 and 95, 9.5, that gives me a 45.5, right? 38 and 9. No, wait, 38 and 9 is 38 and 9 is 47.5. Multiply that by 2. Yeah, that's a 95%. I'm going to go ahead and change this to percent, by the way, yeah, and leave the 2 decimal points. So 95% is correct there. Probably would have been better. Let me just hit escape right now. If I'd gone to something a little more obvious, like if you got 30 right and 9, well, 30 right and 8 right. 30 right and 8 right would be 38 times 2, which is 60, 74%. Let's see what happens if I write that same formula here. So it's going to be that guy plus that guy in the numerator divided by that guy with my dollar signs in it plus that guy with my function F4 dollar signs in it. Close parentheses. This should give me 30 and 8 times 2, 38, 60, 76. 76%, yeah. So that formula definitely works. So let's go back up here. And often I'll recommend that you'll actually take a cell that you know what's going on and type in the right stuff. So I hit that. That's right. However, you will notice that if I drag this down or I drag it over, these numbers are clearly not right. And the reason is that while I was smart in figuring out what I needed to do with my denominator, I was not clever with my numerator. Look at this numerator, B5 here. Okay, when I drag this downward, I'm going to want that to change to B6. Basically what I want is my multiple choice values will always be in column B. So I want the B part of this, function F4, 1, 2, 3 times. I want the B part of this to always have the dollar sign on it. But I want that to change to 5, 6, 7, 8 as I drag it down. When I drag it sideways, I want it to stay B. It's only when I'm dragging it up and down that I want that to change. So I want my numbers to change vertically, but not horizontally. So the vertical part can change, the 5, but the horizontal part B has to remain the same. Horizontal fart, I said. That's hilarious. All right, this one. Think about this for a minute. Where do you want the dollar sign? Do you want it both of these? Do you want, oops, I pushed the wrong button. Function F4, cancel. Function F4. Do I want both dollar signs in there? I don't think I do. Because if I drag that down, I don't want it to still be looking at D2. Well, actually, I drag it down. I do want it to continue to look at D2. When I drag it right, I don't want it to be looking at D2. I want it to be looking at E2 to get that. So that's not right. I don't want dollar signs on both. This is what I want. I want dollar signs because all of my free response values lie on row 2. So I want my 2 to remain the same. And all of my multiple choice values lie in column B. This is the appropriate formula. I'm going to leave that there for just a few seconds for you to analyze it and think about why that is the correct formula. You will be required to write formulas like this with these partial, absolute, partial, relative references as we move forward. So please make sure you understand why $B5 plus $2 is correct for the numerator. But the denominator needs dollars on both the B and 3 and both the C and 2. Anyway, hit this, 95%, drag it up. I get values there. Of course, obviously, if I drag to here, all should be 100%. I can double click this. It takes it all the way down. I can drag it sideways this way. I can take it and double click again to go, oops, well, that went sideways. Interesting. I didn't even know it would do that. Maybe if I double click now, it'll go down. I don't know. Just drag it down. Point is, it's working. And I can prove it's working because if I had 70 points of multiple choice and 30 points of free response, then say a 60, I've lost 10 points there, and 29, I've lost one more, so that gives me an 89. That makes sense. So using values that make sense to me. Of course, this will also work if I have 67 multiple choice and 26.5 free response possible. Here's all the correct stuff. This is the power of a spreadsheet. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. This video is long enough for now. You should definitely make this happen.